Looking for that great next read or your new favorite author? Check out Amy's Bookshelf Reviews recommendations. You won't be disappointed. Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. It is a spin-off of the website and book review site of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast is about book reviews, a writer's muse, a book's peruse, author interviews, and literary news. Welcome to the new year, where new things may happen with this. I hope you all enjoy, and thank you for listening. Good evening, listeners. I'm Amy, and welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Today we are joined by an author. Please introduce yourself and let the audience know how they can connect with you.
Hi, I'm Steven Stack, and you can find me at stevenstack.com or on Facebook or Instagram as well.
So, thank you for joining us, and I'm interested. So, what book are you going to talk about today?
I'm going to talk about Jack, the story of a dog that just came out.
I love that book.
Oh, thank you. I'm very excited. I'm glad it got out there, and to hear all the kind words you had about it, it was awesome.
I'm glad. Yeah, that was I actually read it a few times, and I liked that ending was at the beginning.
Yeah, that was a really important thing for me as well, because one of the things about me is I started off writing plays, and because I'm an actor as well, and one of the plays that really I connected with, I wasn't in it, I just got to see it, was Betrayal by Harold Pinter, and it went backwards. So, it started at the end as well, and I always wanted to write a play that way, but then I got close, but I never got a play that I was like, oh, this is great. And so when I decided that I really wanted to write about my childhood dog, Jack, and I thought about all the books about pets and how pretty much how it's going to end, and it's sad. And then I thought back to Betrayal, and I was like, no, I don't want that, because if it ended sadly, then that's what people are going to take with it. So that's why I wanted to write it from the end to the beginning.
Yeah, and that really worked. I mean, I very rarely have seen anything, I've never seen anything like that in my reading. It's usually, sometimes they'll give you like a prologue, like a kind of a backstory, and then they're like, 20 years later, blah, 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 like they do in the movies. Mm-hmm. But, I loved, you knew that, he passed away, but then you got to kind of like remember, even though he was not my dog, he was yours, but it was like, when you lose someone, how sad you are, whether it's, it's an animal or a human, we're sad of their passing, and we all have different emotions, but with time, remembering the things that you did together, or, moments in someone's life, those, sometimes they're still a little sad, but they're also happy too, you just, even though sometimes it makes you miss that loved one more, but remembering is how we keep that loved one. And I say loved one because it's human or animal. And I believe that we don't have pets, but our so-called animals that live in our home, they have humans.
Right. It's family. And the quote that's at the beginning of the book, that death is but one moment while life is so many more, with the through line of the book being my dad, because he was my stepdad, but he became, my mom remarried, and they got married when I was 5 years old, and he was the one that was always there. And we recently lost him a couple of years ago, and he and I were closest to Jack, and I wanted that to be the through line, because one of the last conversation on the phone, because they live in South Carolina, was that one of the stories from the book about Jack. And the one that got me in trouble as a kid was the last thing we laughed about. And the whole idea of the book, because I work with students, because I teach elementary school and I teach them writing as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. It's one because working with students and also teaching them is that we have the honest conversations, and they got to, as the journey of this book, they got to see like excerpts from it. They got to see my documents as I worked on it. And we had a conversation one time where this one girl, because they really wanted to see the beginning, right? Where Jack, I know Jack is going to die. And this one girl said, this is why I don't want a pet, because I don't want to experience that. And then this one boy, because we had this conversation before, he goes, yes, but it's all the other moments that you get to experience that make that bearable. And this is a fourth grader.
Yeah. And I go along with that line of thinking. I've had many cats, not all at the same time, but when they pass and then wanting another one. And you know, I love animals. If I could, like me and my sons, they're 25, and my daughter-in-law, she just turned 25. But if we all live together as roommates, and if we could, we would live on a farm so we could take in animals, because so many times we've gone into pet shops like to buy like supplies for our animals, and some of them, they're in this cage and they're shuddering and they're scared, and you just wish, oh my goodness, I wish I could take you home with me. Yeah, I have a red-eared slider turtle, and she's beautiful. They told me that it was a he, and it turned out it was a she. And her name is Stanley, because I thought she was a boy, because I named her after Stan Lee.
Nice, excellent.
But she knows her name, and she knows my voice, and she looks up at me. And I talked to all my animals, goldfish. I took in my son's bearded dragon, because he couldn't have they wouldn't let him have a pet in a tank in his room, and there's no water in it, but so I took him in too, and I just love it. They make me feel better.
Oh, no, I totally agree. It's so funny that you said that about your turtle, because Silk Chiffon, we were told that she was a girl, and then they said she was a boy, but she was already Silk Chiffon. So what happened at the vet, it was so funny, because the vet would always refer to Silk as a he, and then I would always refer to Silk as a she. So as I was talking to the vet, I just kept laughing in my head, because I didn't have to do it, but I was like, this is who Silk is. And so I don't know if she was confused. I imagine in my mind, because the girls and I would laugh about that, how Silk was so confused in the vet. She also got obesity shamed because I'd been giving her too many treats. And the vet was like, most cats start losing weight as they get older, but Silk is actually gaining weight. I was like, she's really cute though. But she's trimmed up a little bit.
Yeah, that's adorable. And with my one son, he's like, when we found out that she was a girl, he's like, but Mom, what does she identify as? I'm like, a submarine. Because that's what she does. She floats around like a submarine.
I love it. She identifies as a submarine.
And she will. She really likes bubbles.
That's cool.
Yeah, I have a bubbler in a little waterfall, and she just loves bubbles at one end or the other. It doesn't matter. She just loves it. And they told me she was only going to get about 18 inches. Right now, she's 22 inches long, and she's got a couple more years to grow. So I told my sons, I'm like, she's going to outlive me, so somebody's got to take care of her. And she will.
Oh, man.
But back to Jack,
Mhm.
he just sounds amazing.
Yeah, Jack was like, because it's like I when I was in first grade, as a kid, like I I never really liked talking too much about my feelings and things.
Yeah.
And I mean, because I was once when I was really young, somebody said, I don't know who it was. It was like when I was a kid, I just entered the room and lit it up. So somehow that became my definition of what I was supposed to be.
Oh.
And so Jack, besides just being a super goofy dog, he was always consistent. Like he didn't need me. Like wasn't going to respond except to just lay in my lap or to steal my food, and things like that. And that's what I always needed. And we, and that's why we have Pepper actually too, because my youngest had always loved dogs. And I volunteered when I was a teenager at Pets Incorporated in South Carolina,
Mm.
a shelter, a no-kill shelter. And it was so great just sitting with those animals and everything. And then I'd go back home to Jack, and Jack would be like, "Why do you smell like other dogs?" But we had Pepper, it was like a little
Yeah.
jealous.
Oh, definitely. I can see that. I live in a secured apartment building, and when I go out, I have to use a wheelchair, and all my friends in this building are dogs. They flock to me and they love me. It's like I'm their best friend.
Oh,
And I've had shy owners, but then they slowly just started talking because their dog was like, "Hey, let's play."
yeah, exactly. And that's what we did at the animal shelter, because Zoe still wants to volunteer and she's getting to that age where we can. But like we got, there was an incident at, her school, one time, and and Zoe was like, we had to wait a while to pick her up and stuff. Like it was the whole school, something happened, and she was, experiencing something like that. But we were walking home finally, and then she was like, "Can I just go be with Pepper?" And so she ran home, and when we got back, she and Pepper were on the couch, and they were both just looking out the window. And Pepper like had her paw on Zoe's arm, and it was one of the sweetest moments. And it reminded me of Jack, like certain days when I would come home and I couldn't, like, I didn't want to talk about my feelings. I didn't want to have to, explain anything.
Yeah.
And I just got to sit with Jack, and that's what Zoe does too now. Same thing is that she has those moments, but also goofy moments too, because Jack was one of the goofiest dogs. And she was absolutely delightful. Or like when he would run in, like to the house, because I would let him in oftentimes, and he would just run around everywhere, and it was so fun. And now that seeing my kids get to have the same relationship as well with Pepper and Silk is, it's just amazing. And that's like when I wrote the book too, because it was about my dog, right, and my family. However, it's not really. It's about anybody who's ever loved really anything, anyone, any pet, any, family, friends.
Yeah, I definitely got that feeling. And to have something, someone, because a dog is someone.
Yes, absolutely.
And that, has no expectations. They just hope that you come home, and they hope that when they want that they can sit on your lap and make you feel better. And just, feed them and give them treats and, sneak food under the table so your parents don't know.
Yeah. It's so funny too, because like with Pepper, like with Chloe and Zoe, they'll both like text me about how Pepper just came and laid on them. Cause Pepper is a big dog who thinks that she's a lap dog.
Uh-huh.
And she'll just curl up on you.
Aww.
And you can't move. And so that's the kind of stuff that Jack, I don't know. I just love seeing those moments like all come back. One of the other funny things about the book, so my brother, it was funny with the illustrator, Jaden. and because she did my first book, Behind the Curtain, The Tooth Fairy, but my first children's book. But she drew a picture. Like, I didn't know I was going to use her as the illustrator, but the publishing company, Orange Hat, sent her the story and she loved it. So she drew a picture of Jack as a puppy, and it was really, really good. And but Jaden, there's a really vital picture you have to get right, because my brother in the 80s rocked the 80s. He was into pastels.
Don Johnson.
Yes, he had a mullet perm. It was epic. Oh. And there's a picture, and I sent her this. I was like, you got to get this right, where he has overall acid washed shorts, and one strap is
down. Yes.
Yep, and he's got the lean and his thumb in his pocket. And I was like, you have to get this right, because I want him to have his mullet perm throughout the whole book. So the very second thing she did, even though she got Jack perfectly, was draw my brother. And it was epic. So you see, that's the picture that you see in there too. And I don't know, because that's the cool thing about writing these things too, is that my mom, she's older now, and my dad's dead. But when they get to look at it, they can play remembering games too.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really like that. And that's what I want people when they read the book. Like, even if they still have their pets or family members or whatever, they just, they sit back and remember and just see that, like, death is just but one moment. And life it's so many more. And then you start talking about all these moments. Cause I mainly play, like, sometimes with my mom, we just play remembering games, where we just talk about funny things. And talking to her about those is one of the most beautiful moments, because then she doesn't sound tired anymore.
Yeah.
She just sounds young and happy.
Yeah, my dad was like that. My mom passed when she was 44, almost 28 years ago. And my dad's, I had a bad relationship with him as a kid, but as an adult, I had a really good one. But now he's got dementia and he doesn't know who I am. And, there were some sparks a few times that, like, for an instant, he would know who I was. But now he doesn't. There's not anything left inside about who, not even, I think he only knows his name.
Oh man.
So, but I remember for him.
Right.
And before he had a traumatic brain injury, so he always knew there was an 80% chance that he would have some form of dementia because of that. But before that, I would take him to doctors because he had heart surgery, and he was always very quiet. But after his heart surgery, the anesthesia, they said, would affect his memory, but you couldn't get him to stop talking. And that was a good thing, because he told me stories that I never knew. And when I would take him to the doctors, and this is like around, this is 2019 going into 2020. So the doctor would ask why I was there, and my dad would say, it's because she's my memory.
Ooh, that's...
Cause, with COVID, they really limited people going in the same room, but my dad sometimes they talked about things that he didn't quite understand what they were saying. They would say it too low, and he's trying to hear them. So, and like the last one, did you have any pain in your chest? And he's like, I don't remember. So then he looks at me, did I? I'm like, if you told me, Dad, you had to tell me these things so I can actually know the answer.
That's so funny too. Like, I love that. So one of the, talking about memories, when I had, cause once I started writing the book, I would ask Mom and stuff and my brother and about Jack and see what stories they had. And I had written the first draft, and it had got accepted. And then Mom, out of nowhere, we're on the phone, and she told me a story that ended up making the book. about her, like Jack getting out in the yard, in the road and stuff, and she leaving work. And she got so excited telling that story. And as soon as I got off the phone, I was like, I am adding that story. And then when I told her, then she just retold the story again. And it's funny because every time I bring it up, she would retell it. And I don't know, it was just such a cool experience to see how excited she got and how proud of herself she was. And now that's part of the story, because that's Jack's story, because it wasn't just about me. It was about everybody. So
that's amazing. Yeah. And you can tell that with how the story is. It is amazing. And I absolutely loved it. Like I said, I don't have any grandchildren except for my fur babies. And I recently wrote and published my first children's books. I used to write kids stories for my sons when they were little and read them to them, because they like being the main character.
Of
so
course.
I recently published this book. It's called What Am I? It's about this cat that has like really long ears, like a rabbit.
Okay.
And his brothers and his mother were left in a cardboard box, and they put the word free on it. And then all of a sudden, a kid came along and he took the mother and the brothers, but he didn't know what the cat was. So the cat kind of goes through a journey of trying to figure out if he's a cat. He's black and white, so he sees a rabbit, it's black and white. He talks to a mouse, or no, a rat, and he tries to figure out if he's a dog, because he's black and white, and he runs into a terrier. But in the end, he finds a human, and he realizes that he is a good kitty, because his mother always told him he wasn't a kitty at all.
That's an awesome story. And also congratulations too. That's really cool.
Thank you. I mean, I've written a lot of books, but I've never published a children's book, but it came to me, and I just, when they got published, I was like handing them out to relatives that had grandchildren or little cousins, just to see how does a kid like this. So
right. It is an interesting thing too, because since I started off, writing plays, and then I wrote one for like older kids, but because the same thing, telling stories, it's just one of the things, and working with elementary school students too. And it's just a really fun like avenue for me now, because I have 2 more that I just signed a contract for. One is based on a story I told Chloe, my oldest, when we would tell stories together. It's Pirtle and Poopsie. It's about a pickle chip and a porcupine who become friends, because the porcupine, Poopsie, can't climb a tree and she really wants to. And then Pirtle, a pickle chip, wants to make friends, but no one really wants to be friends with a pickle chip. So they kind of go on parallel journeys, because they both find a book to help them get where they want. And then it leads to them to find each other.
That's cool.
I needed to write something like after Jack, because Behind the Curtain was a fun little journey too, but I needed to write something like fun. And then another one is called The Noise, and that one coming out is based on a kid when I first met her, because I work as an interventionalist too, so I'm like helping kids like increase their math skills.
Right.
And this kid, when I first started working with them, they would always come to school really happy, big old smile on their face. I tell you, that smile would like brighten up the hallway. Oh. But what happened is that, and this is a story, but like, once again, is like, basically she started hearing, oh, your score's a little lower, oh, you got to be a little quieter, you got to be level 0. And that was like the origin of The Noise, is about a girl who used to be enough, and then she finds out the noise tells her she's not, and how to like process that. So that one, the adults are really connecting with it because, we all have the noise.
Yeah.
And so that one's coming out. I don't know when that one's coming out, but that one's a really personal one too. Like, my kids.
Yeah, and any books that you have already published or to be published and you need them reviewed, just send them to me and I'll.
I absolutely will.
And also, I always recommend that adults read children's books because I think some adults forget what it was like to be a kid and see the world through a child's eyes. I mean, I still watch old videos of my kids when they were little, and I love that they even how they grew up. They don't mind. I act weird and silly and tell really bad jokes, and they just shake their head. But it's I really think that when I read to them my story before I did sketches and I did graphics on the computer, so it's a mix of various things that I did to create this cat. But when I told I read them the story, they wanted me to read it to them. They just loved it. And,
so awesome.
And most kids, I think most adults, I read a lot of children's books, and I think that adults should read them more, whether they have children or not.
Oh, I agree with you. Like, some of the most powerful books. I don't know if you, ever read City Dog and Country Frog by Mo Willems?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, because Zoe picked that out. She went through, because Chloe liked picking up upbeat stories. Yeah. And then Zoe she went through a really deep, I don't know how she would pick them out. And reading that book is one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. And it's just where it's going.
Yeah.
But good grief, because I remember the first time I read it to Zoe when she was young, and when I got to after summer and it played fall, and I was like, oh no. And then I started crying right in the middle. I was like, oh man. So, but you're totally right. And because inherently what I believe, watching adults, working with adults and stuff and seeing them, I see that they wish that they could just play more.
Yeah.
And they have been told, adults, and I say they, I mean me too, but have been told they have to fit. And see, I was too big for my mom when I was born, so I walk with a limp. So, and inherently I've never fit just because of that too. That was one of the things, but also my personality. And I remember having this beautiful, enlightened moment where it was just 'cause I had to own that limp, where I used to make up stories that it was from football or whatever, but I'd never even played football except with my friends. But once I owned that, I was like, I inherently am never going to fit, in which I think that most people think the same thing, that they don't fit. But I was like, that gives me a freedom just to be able to play and, do the things that entertain me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think you see people walk around and you see that the sadness or the angst or whatever in their face. And it's like, it's okay. You can play. You're only here on this planet for a short time.
I know.
So enjoy it.
It reminds me of, it's not very often, but to see a couple walking down the sidewalk and holding hands. Older couples, you see that a lot.
Yep.
My parents, when they would go for walks and they needed time away from their 5 children, that they always held hands.
Mm-hmm.
They were married 25 years, and then a couple months after my mom had passed. But, my dad was he enjoyed every moment that he had with her, and told me of how they met and things like that. And when I see, you could see it's the difference from walking down the street and having that phone in your hand.
Yep.
And to just holding hands and enjoying the company,
Exactly. Just staying present in that moment. Because so much of the world, right, it gets you to think about the past or the future instead of just being there. And
Yeah, that's true.
And so that's one of the things with the kids I work with, and my kids and myself and everything, is that it's just like seeing what's in front of you and don't miss out, because those all those moments are fleeting, and that's kind of what I write about in all of the books, because I want that message to get out, because there's another quote, because I teach theater, and what we do is like there's the thought of the day, and one resonated, like a lot of them resonated with me, but I always use it at the end of like the camps that I work and the class, and the thought is one more time eventually becomes one last time.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And we talk about it, like, because first they're like, oh, that's sad. And I was like, no, that's what is true. And when you go into it knowing that anything you do, you've learned to appreciate it even more. But you don't have to make yourself appreciate it. You're just aware. And so that's one of the things that I really focus on. Like, that's what you put putting the phone away. And just being present with the people you're with.
Exactly. And I mean, I know there is a greatness to, technology, but how many times I've been trying to talk to somebody and they act like they're listening, but they got their phone in their face,
Yep.
And I think people don't realize that you should enjoy the moment. I'm a project that I'm working on. I'm doing family history, not just genealogy and family trees, but trying to find the stories about the people that came before us.
Right.
So that's something that I've been working on. But, I want you to share any work that you want with me. You could send
Absolutely,
it to me.
I will.
And when, if you have books coming out for release date, and congratulations on your contract, that's wonderful.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I'm just going to wrap up the show now.
Okay.
If you wish for you or your book to be on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast. Thank you for listening. Be safe, be well, and always be kind. Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. If you are looking to be on the podcast or looking for a book review, you can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com and look for the appropriate navigational menu. Again, thank you all for listening and being a supporter of this podcast and of the Amy's Bookshelf Reviews professional reviewers of books and audiobooks. Thank you all. Be safe and be well.